Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. On the session today, we'll be exploring one of the most exciting property markets in Australia right now, the Sunshine Coast. This region is experiencing extraordinary growth driven by massive infrastructure investment, strong population increases, and a booming local economy. It's a market that offers real opportunities for investors, both in terms of capital growth and rental yields. And today, we're going to show you why. Joining me today is someone who knows this market better than most, Tony Seller, General Manager of the 000 Property Group. Tony's got a wealth of experience across the property and construction sectors, having led major residential projects and worked closely with investors for many years. He's based on the Sunshine Coast for over 2 decades, and his local knowledge and strategic insight make him a fantastic guide to this fast-moving market. Tony, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Mate, I'm well, Tim. Thanks for having me, and everybody who's joined the call. Thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it.
That's all right. So, Tony, you've obviously lived on the Sunshine Coast for 20 years. You must have seen that market change a hell of a lot over that time.
Mate, we made a little trip up here over 20 years ago, spent a couple of nights in Mooloolaba, kind of fell in love with the place and bought a house a couple of months after that. At that time, I remember property prices were still considerably low, although the region had seen a fairly good boom from a price perspective, as we saw a gentle migration from a lot of Melbourneites, a lot of Victorians heading north, and same with the New South Welshmen. But what seemed like a sort of a sleepy coastal town, without underselling it too much, it's certainly grown. And I mean, you look at certain coastal areas in Queensland and southeast Queensland, and I might sort of lean into the Gold Coast, for example. I think the Sunny Coast has done a great job of, the right type of growth, and the right type of infrastructure, whilst maintaining a real lifestyle-based and a real country town on the coast feel.
Yeah, right. So no looking back.
Mate, I've got 3 boys, and I couldn't think of a better place in the world to raise them.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with you. I love it up there. All right. Well, look, I know you've prepared a presentation for us today. If you'd like to share your screen and we can start to get into that. Whilst you're getting that all up and going, for everybody sitting at home watching live, we do have a Q&A panel. You're welcome to use that throughout the webinar. We're planning to chat for about 45 minutes with about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. As I say, you're welcome to ask some questions throughout the presentation, but we'll try to answer most of those questions towards the end. Over to you, Tony.
Thank you, mate. So have I got that one right? We can see that okay?
We're
Beautiful.
cooking with gas.
Beautiful. So yeah, look, I think I'll start with a little bit about us, myself and 000 Property. We've been around for just over 17 years. We've built over 1,000 properties for our clients. Our core client is your mum and dad investor. However, we work across, we've got a wide range of clients on our books. I'm actually just about to hand over a property to one of my clients who it'll be his 17th construction. So we do sort of cover a nice wide base. We work with first home buyers. We work with sophisticated investors. We can act as a builder broker, so you can feel free to BYO land, although our core product is really sourcing that the house and land investment and construction investment, and we're pretty good at outperforming the market. We have played nationwide. At the moment, I mean, it's a happy coincidence, but at the moment we're really intensive here on the Sunshine Coast. I mean, we have been for a long time. It's geographically relevant. I mean, it's where I live. But beyond that, it's just provided some exceptional opportunities for our clients for many years now. I guess, a gratuitous brag for us, we're obviously doing things right. Last year we won the Australian Small Business Champion Award for buyers agents. We're a finalist this year. I was there on Saturday night. We got pipped at the post. 23 finalists in our category, but still, very proud of our achievements as a company and a business, and always great to get a nod. The type of projects that we do. So one of the hot topics in the market, obviously, special disability accommodation. We've developed some really great expertise in that. Traditional residential property as well is our core product.
Very good.
So I guess we're all here to understand why the Sunshine Coast. We've seen incredible growth on the Sunshine Coast, and I will touch on different points as we go through. We continue to see a very high demand for property and for rentals up here. I mean, the rental crisis is nationwide. We all know that, but we're sit at about just under 1% in core areas on the sunny coast. With our business, we are end to end with our business, so we take our clients on the entire journey. And if you're geographically relevant, although we have contacts in all areas where we build from a property management perspective, we also work very closely. I mean, they're in our office, Property Better, run by Mark Thompson. So I'm constantly engaging him on vacancy rates and that sort of thing as well. We've got some incredible infrastructure, and we just hit a real, I guess, it felt like a bit of a bonus win last week with the Queensland government announcing a lot more funding coming to the Sunshine Coast. A lot of that tied into infrastructure that we've been waiting for quite some time, but also some real nice infrastructure that will tie into the Olympics and then create a great legacy on the coast beyond that. We've seen the upgrades to the international airport, and I'll talk to that a little bit more as well. We're getting a new aerospace precinct. So in the last couple of years, we've had the widening and lengthening of the runway, which has given us international capacity for some aircraft. Obviously, as a tourism hotspot, that's opened up a lot of opportunity, but beyond that, it's opened up a lot of commercial opportunity for us as well. With that aerospace precinct, that covers about 2.5 hectares. That'll be the home of Life Flight, as well as some other tourism-based businesses. We've got one of the largest charter companies based there as well. So they're doing both medical and Hollywood-style charters all over the country and connecting internationally as well. So some really exciting stuff happening there. We continue to see the Bruce Highway upgrades. We've seen a lot of improvement. No longer are we flooded out from Brisbane every time there's a decent rain, which has been great. Right through to the Gympie bypass and further improvements on the Bruce. I mean, the lifestyle and economic growth in the Sunshine Coast has always been important, and that's reflected in some of our larger residential developments as well. And I'll speak to that when I'm talking to you guys about Aura as well. Massive infrastructure spending. So we've got $20 billion in spending over the next, in infrastructure spend coming over the next 20 years. 12 billion of that to be delivered in line with the 2032 Olympics. And again, I'll touch on some of those projects. The SKU, the Sunshine Coast University Hospital, and the surrounding health precinct, $5 billion being poured into that. It's an incredible facility, state of the art, and I'm comfortable to say nation leading in what they're doing. And my understanding is
it's even the largest in the Southern Hemisphere now, I believe.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Yeah, which is quite incredible for, again, the sunny coast. And our population boom, some incredible stats and numbers around that. We'll grow by, we'll be over 500,000 on the sunny coast come 2021. It's 500,000 people, which is extremely strong growth. I'll talk to some percentages of net migration onto the coast as well. But our core problem with that is we're not keeping up with housing. So we need a lot of homes. We need them built quickly, and we're behind, and we'll continue to be behind for the next decade unless something dramatic happens, and unless we continue to find investors to build property here. So what are the key things, I guess, driving growth on the Sunshine Coast? I touched on that 20 billion. What a great number. Behind me, you can't see it because I've popped in a fancy background, but out my window in my office, I can see that building that you can see on that slide is the new council chambers in the Maroochydore CBD development. Previously a golf course, so a lot of hearts broken when that was resumed, but all good. They've built a beautiful one out at Bly, take care of the golfers. But this precinct again is quite incredible, and along with the council chambers, there is a lot of medium density residential going in there. It's got basically a 6-star energy rating, so they're subscribing to that real sustainable heart of the coast. Yeah. there's multiple commercial and lifestyle products. Some of our best restaurants on the coast are now located there, which is nice. We did get that great news last week that there'll be an athletes village in there. So I believe it's walkers are involved with the government and the council bringing that to life. But along with that, there'll be a five-star hotel. There'll be a 9,000 seat arena, which post the Olympics is going to be an exhibition and entertainment centre, which is fantastic. We've been sort of been living out of a little old entertainment centre down at Caloundra for a long time. So we're really excited about that coming to the coast. And there'll be a cultural precinct there as well. I believe it's called the Horizon. Well, I can't remember the second word, but the Horizon project, let's just call it.
Yeah.
It does look incredible. It is state of the art, and it's very exciting for the Sunshine Coast. And it's extremely important that the Sunshine Coast, we have sort of, I guess, survived on a lot of older infrastructure for quite some time. So to see something like this is going to be fantastic for the residents and anybody making their way here. I already touched on the airport and what's going on there. The other thing that we got really great news on last week was the Sunshine Coast rail upgrades. So this is going to be progress based initially. So in time for the Olympics, phase one, it's going to connect. So we're going to have quicker rail to Brisbane, Moreton Bay and Brisbane. And then it's going to connect Beerwah to Batinia. So for people who aren't familiar with our coastline, Beerwah is sort of a little bit inland. This is going to take people from inland directly to right near the beaches. So it's always bypassed on the other side of the highway. So this is going to give some great connectivity there. The Wave project is the greater name of the transport upgrade or the transport system that we're going to have. And it's going to be a blend of that rail. So we'll have heavy rail. In future phases, we'll have some light rail, bus networks, all designed to move people, both locals and tourists, to the major hubs. That initial spur off the existing railway line at 38.7 kilometres, it's actually the largest spur in southeast Queensland. That's dual track. And like I said, it's going to get people nice and quickly right into the action. And then there'll be key stations all the way up to the Sunshine Coast Airport. So we've been waiting. It's been a stop-start process. We probably...
I know this line gets thrown around pretty easily, but it is a game changer.
Mate, it is. I had an investment in Mountain Creek, and behind me was the Cam Cross corridor. And when I bought there, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to cash in on this. There's going to be a railway station near here soon. That was about 20 years ago. I sold that investment about 10 years ago, and it's still a empty corridor. So, yeah, absolute game changer. We're pumped to have it. Some of the sideline things that people don't understand too when you get an infrastructure like this is with the new railway stations and the affordable housing scheme, it's going to create an opportunity to deliver about another 3,000 homes around those transport hubs. So it'll expedite that as well. So thanks, Olympics. You're doing us a massive favour in that regard. We've just connected the very first Queensland submarine the data and telecommunications cable to the Japan, Guam, Australian South 7,000 kilometre cable, which gives Queensland its first international connection. So traditionally we've had to go through Sydney. And that
Sydney and Perth, the only other two, I think.
I believe so, yeah. And we've traditionally gone through Sydney. So that lands right next to the Maroochydore CBD. So that's a 550 kilometre submarine fiber optic cable. My apologies. Yeah. An incredible project. It'll deliver in excess of 900 jobs to the region and has already started delivering that. It's tipped to deliver over $900 million investment. And from a scope perspective, it's the first time Queensland have been connected internationally, but it also now gives us the ability to, bring in companies like your Googles, your high data, your intensive
I was
data.
about to say, I mean, the appeal for big business to go and set up in a brand new green energy CBD, it's got to
Yep.
be half the cost of Sydney, if not more. So it puts you on the international map in terms of major cities that big business would go and set up their headquarters in.
Mate, you're exactly right. So watch this space. Google, Microsoft, we're
Yeah.
ready and waiting.
I mean, it's insane that you've already got a few of them there. Your Yui's got their headquarters there.
Correct.
Yeah, obviously with all this medical that's going in there too, they need it.
Yeah, mate, you're absolutely right. And it's something, we make jokes as locals, we make jokes all the time about our internet and that sort of thing. So again, any upgrade would be greatly received, yeah, with open arms. And I've touched on those public transport upgrades as well. Tim, did you have anything else to add? I
No,
know
I think you covered most. I had some questions in there that you managed to get on top of as you were presenting, so we got there.
beautiful, beautiful. So the most obvious question when you're in investment, the most obvious question people ask you is where is it best to invest?
Mhm.
We start with our clients' goals in mind. There's we need to satisfy multiple price points. We have quite an intensive on the ground, boots on the ground process that we go through. So the short answers, well, the answers aren't always short, but here on the Sunshine Coast at the moment, and like a lot of regions, it's where there's land, it's where there's opportunity. There's, I do like an established property. We only deal in construction, but established property here on the Sunshine Coast is unaffordable for a lot of people, or it's out in areas where people don't want to be. So we're seeing some incredible opportunities in Aura, which is that sort of Caloundra West. Aura happens to be one of the largest residential developments in the Southern Hemisphere. It's quite the behemoth. Maroochydore, we're seeing some good property options coming on now. Some of that tied into that new hub. But we're seeing a little bit more in that townhome space coming on, which we haven't seen for a little bit.
Mhm.
Harmony, which is Palmview, that's an Avid development. Unfortunately, they've had brakes put on there, so we're not doing anything in there at the moment. They just weren't quite keeping up with their infrastructure requirements and their agreements with council. But that is the second hottest spot for new land here on the coast. But look, we're doing stuff everywhere from Caloundra to Noosa here on the coast. We've done some really great infill projects for clients. We can service anywhere. It's just about, again, satisfying the numbers from an investment perspective and ensuring that you're getting the best bang for your buck. The other area that we've been really active in that we're getting exceptional results from is Southside of Gympie. So
Mhm.
whilst it doesn't quite sit in the Sunny Coast LGA, we've put our arm around them and they're our nice little northern neighbour, about 45 minutes from Noosa. And what we're getting up there is an incredible price point. For anyone on the webinar that's city based, 45-minute transit's probably 10K. Whereas here on the Sunshine Coast, if you travel more than 15 minutes, it's considered long distance. But up there, you're getting 800 square meter blocks, 422s, and we're doing that for 730 to 750, 730 to 750,000. Easy proximity into Gympie itself, so only 5 minutes from shopping centres and everything you need. So it's become a really attractive option. It's a great price point. We can still do stuff for first home buyers up there as well. So that affordable side of the Sunshine Coast, it's satisfying some of that. Outside of that, anything sub 50 in the right areas, you're really looking at terrace stock and terrace homes, and they're hard to get. I do have a few though, so let me know if you need one.
So I was going to ask you on that, subject of availability. I mean, I don't do a lot in new build these days, but I know for so many estates around southeast Queensland now, they're pretty picky about owner occupier versus investor. So with the areas that you're talking about here, you can get investor blocks. Is that right?
Yeah, and look, it gets, and again, you bang on, and as you'd know, the more swagger a developer has, the less investment they want in there.
Yeah.
More demand, the less development, the less investment they want. Mate, we leverage off 18 years of relationships. We have great relationships with developers. We have great relationships with builders who have those also have those relationships. So we're able to get land and opportunities that other investment groups can't. You know, we see a lot of investment groups playing in the normal spaces where there's plenty of land to share around, whereas we've sort of got a knack of getting our hands on those tougher areas, and they're clamping down. They make it really hard. You know, some of the builders are getting, I might get 2 or 3 lots a release.
Stage.
And fortunately, we've got a relationship where we can secure 1, 2, and sometimes all of those lots for our clients. So certainly leveraging off those relationships. Southside, I mean, we've got a little bit more openness up there, but again, the developers up there, they're sort of really careful, and these are beautiful estates. So they've done a really great job from an aesthetic perspective. Covenants are in a really good place to ensure that, you know, they are delivering something really beautiful up there. We can get a little bit more up there, but everybody's sort of starting to cotton on to what a great opportunity it is. So even that's narrowing up. And then we apply another layer to everything that we do, Tim. So I had a client in that sort of 750 to 800 range. Spoke to my builder, had 6 blocks to go and have a look at, and there was only one that I wanted for my client. So that's, you know, we'll drive up, we'll stand on every block, and we'll make that decision based on what is best. And
what does that to do with you know, the dimensions, the fall?
And most of these we ruled out because of fall.
Fall, yeah.
So, yeah, you know, fall at the front, fall at the back.
Really adds to your construction and site costs.
It does, and then, you know, your rental attractiveness, a family, you know, mowing a block that runs over sort of 6 meter fall is not fun. It's not fun. And then a resale as well. You know, some of these blocks have incredible aspects. So if you're there for the view, fill your boots. But for the most part, we want something that has a wide audience from both a rental and a resale perspective as well.
Yeah. That's good. So you touched on the sort of pricing up in Southside, you know, you sort of 700, 750. What does that mean for the stock that is available in these corridors, specifically in the Sunshine Coast? What sort of price point are you hitting there?
So, I mean, I've fortunately, again, leveraging off a relationship that I've got, I just secured a 3-bedroom, it's 150 square meter build. Oh, it's 140 square meter build, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, single lockup garage, terrace in Aura for 692, which is an absolute steal. It's on just over 200 square meters of dirt. So it's a sound investment. And the client, he's actually a young police officer from up north. He's probably going to live there one day. So it's a really great opportunity. We get so few of them, and then it jumps up to, you know, mid eights to low nines for a low set 422 on a 350 square meter block in your auras. Jumps up again in Harmony and Palmview because it's considered a little more central. I've got Aura. I'll do a bit of a spotlight on Aura and explain to you why it's still great buying. But it's a significant jump in price. So, and we just, again, speaking to your point before about developers and how they dish out the land between owner ocs and investment, a lot of the builders are selling retail as well. That, you know, it's always a happy space when they need us to bring them clients. And we do, you know, as I said before, we leverage off our relationships to ensure we've got that steady flow. There are times where they just don't have to. So if they don't have to, they'll take top dollar, drop out that wholesale. They'll only you know, service the wholesale that they have to, based on relationships. So yeah, it's great when we can get a few of those because they are hard to get our hands on.
I remember I was selling an Aura, or helping people buy into Aura more specifically back in 2017, and you know, we had a really good run of it, and clients made great money, and then all of a sudden they just put the brakes on. They said, "We don't need you guys anymore."
Yeah, that's it, mate. And when you go into the, you know, we sort of still visit land offices and have a chat, and it's the first thing they want to know, and they want to know what type of client you're working with. And oh yeah, like I said, we're maintaining. We're a little bit, you know, we're always a little bit apprehensive about where the next round of great land will come from and whether or not we're in the right space. But we will literally, and we do this on a regular basis. We're down in Adelaide next week. You know, we're active in Adelaide, and part of our trips we just jump in the car and we drive to every upcoming estate, start getting a look at it, decide where we want to be, and start working on those relationships early, so that when the time comes, we're able to get we only need a few, but we're able to get a few for our clients.
Sure.
So I did mention Aura, and the size of this development. It's Stockland. For those of you who've seen or even met Danny, our founder, he always uses the term "better the devil you know" when it comes to developers. And the one thing that Stockland do is they do really fantastic developments. Their infrastructure is second to none, and a lot of people criticize, I think, that small lot living, and they say it's all gridded, greenfield. It's just house after house. You can, hear your neighbors talking.
The amenity around it, though.
Say again?
It's the amenity around it, though. And you're buying with somebody like Stockland's. They master plan. So we may not be kicking the football in the backyard, but the park is never too far away.
100%, mate. And we see developers that equally don't do that.
Yeah.
And they tend to be quite investment heavy, those developments as well. So they just want to churn and burn as quickly as they can. Yeah. But no, Aura is quite remarkable. It's just a short drive to the beaches of Caloundra, Golden Beach, Kings, all the good stuff down there. It's not too far from the Maroochydore CBD, easy access south to Brisbane. I said again, it's a huge development. It's been phase-based, started with Baringa, and now Baringa's got its own school, its own shopping centre. And the great thing about Aura is, as it's grown through Narimba and Banya, the infrastructure has grown with it. So they've got a good commercial district. They've got a Macca's, all the important stuff. They've got a service station. Not enough service stations on the sunny coast. Don't know why. But we're seeing great stuff. And Tim, when you would have been showing your clients, there was probably a billboard on the highway that, house and land from $495 or even maybe $395.
Oh, I was building a house and land package for $497,000. That was the cheapest I did up there.
Yeah. So now, I just spoke to some of the price points that we've got in there, but we haven't seen really a slowdown. We saw the smallest of pauses for the Sunshine Coast and capital growth for a few months, but I think that was on the back of an absolute boom in pricing.
Yeah. We call it a second wind market. This is common all around Australia. We had a huge boom with COVID, and then every sort of market like the Sunshine Coast that had such strong growth, it sort of reached a point where it had a correction. Sunshine Coast, if anything, probably overshot its true value, and it's probably come back a little bit. And now this correction is what's giving it the number one in our best buys for this year, because we see relative affordability in this market that you can't get elsewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, keep in mind, if we're doing a project there at 900K for a 422 on a 350, the median house price on the sunny coast it's $1,060,000. So it is affordable. And the most exciting thing about Aura is the core infrastructure. It hasn't even started. I mean, they have scraped the dirt. The city centre is huge. The Kaminsky Group are building a $46 million hotel and entertainment precinct there. There's a lagoon precinct going in the town centre there, and a major shopping centre. So, and this
there's already a $400 million shopping centre there now. So anything in addition to that is enormous.
Yeah, and it's going to rival, everything else, all that other infrastructure on the Sunshine Coast. It will rival it. It will become destinational for the Sunshine Coast. So, if you're getting in now, we're not going to see, we're still anticipating capital growth in and around that 8% a year, which, I mean,
it's interesting. One of the things you talked about earlier on in the presentation, Tony, was new build pricing versus established. And for a lot of my customers I've talked to in the past, I said, you don't go into investment saying I want to build new or I want to build established. You look at the location first, and I believe the location you buy in will do 80% of the heavy lifting, and the product will do the balance. So I often look at a lot of markets and say, that's a new build market, that's an established market. And here in the Sunshine Coast, as you've already correctly stated, you can build a brand new home. for less than you can buy in, it's below median price, and a lot of the established properties are fetching far higher. So the other thing, you've always got the benefit of your stamp duty and your depreciation, all those types of savings, in addition to, structural warranties and all the other benefits that come with new build. So when I look at a market like this, I can see new build as, something that I would entertain, whereas in a lot of other markets, because of the cost of land and obviously the heavy construction costs increase we've seen over the last few years, a lot of other markets are more suited to established.
Yeah, 100% agree, mate. 100% agree. Just before I move off Aura, and again, we touched on, Tim mentioned it, the master plan estates that Stockland do. You literally can't go 200 meters without bumping into a park. So that's small lot living, and Tim talked about kicking the footy outside. There's plenty of space to do it, a ton of green space, lots of community centres, lots of hubs, schools. There'll be a university campus. So everything aligns for it. I'm personally investing there right now. We've had, although we're called the Sunshine Coast, it's been a couple of weeks of rain up here, so my slab's been delayed, but that's where I'm putting my money at the moment, and I know it's going to do really, really well.
Yeah.
I did want to, again, just sort of touch on Southside. This is all reclaimed farmland up there, so quite a different look and feel to your normal flat greenfield estates. This is all undulating and just nestled into the foothills there, so it's high enough not to get flooded. And it's quite beautiful out there. Your aspects, all you see is trees and those low-lying hills. Our property. So you've got to, when you're looking at the median house pricing up there, you've just got to take into consideration the fact that there's still a lot of old shacks and farmhouses, and there's I guess you could say that Gympie's undergoing that sort of gentrification process as it becomes a hub, and it's got some incredible infrastructure and investment going in there as well. The Gympie bypass being one of those. Yields there are fantastic. So it has been, and it continues to be a really great option for our clients. And there's just a slow release of land up there, so we're not going to see an oversupply outweighing the demand anytime soon.
Obviously, most people would know Noosa. Would I be right in saying that it's probably a similar distance to Noosa as Caloundra is to Noosa? Would that be about right? Noosa, Caloundra might even be slightly further.
Yeah, I reckon Caloundra's further, mate, because you've got more traffic to get in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gympie is straight on the highway. So yeah, Caloundra would be further.
There you go.
Yeah. So wanted to talk a little bit about the rental market. The rental crisis rolls on, and we, based on the population growth that we're expecting over the next, 20 odd years, we will trail by about we'll fall short a good 15% of the amount of homes and dwellings we need year on year over the next decade. There's nothing in the pipeline that's going to change that. So we will continue to have a skewed demand from an investment perspective. We don't see any slowdown in property prices increasing, and we don't see any slowdown in rental yields, moving along nicely with that. Although you don't always make that correlation, but we just don't see how we'll have enough housing year on year as we move forward. We'll continue those strong yields from a population perspective. Last year, the Sunshine Coast saw 14% of all internal migration. That was nearly double the next closest. And just looking at net regional migration over the first quarter, we're again leading the way. And you can see down a couple of those on that graph there, that 4.1. Interestingly, Gympie is also at 4.1%. So, and that's net regional, Australia-wide. So we're not taking in the capitals, but Gympie had the highest growth of any regional area last year as well. So that whole southeast corridor, and I won't talk to it today, but connecting through to the Wide Bay and Burnett region, we're seeing massive growth, and again, all on the back of some incredible infrastructure spend. We've got something for everyone. So for the Sydney siders who some people in the southern states, the COVID boom has given them $1 million in equity, in a very short amount of time. We've got incredible properties for under $1 million, so we can satisfy any budget, any choice, any need, any requirement here on the sunny coast. The Olympics. So, yeah, funnily enough, I was always one of those people who didn't quite understand why so the Sydney Olympics, I was in a different career and a bit younger. But there was a lot of talk around how that would benefit the economy, and I was always wondered how a couple of weeks benefit an economy. But obviously, being a little bit older, a bit wiser, understanding that the amount of infrastructure it takes to bring an event like that to the country, and then the exposure it gives us to the world, and the impact that will have on those legacy projects, and then just the desirability and the location and the showcasing. We're going to get a lot of uplift from that. I think it's two out of 5 people that move here are from Queensland. I think there's a couple more from interstate, and then one from overseas. But I'm sure when they're watching the triathlons and the marathons, and I'm sure there'll be a fair bit of exposure to the sunny coast, we'll probably see another rush of people who realise it's such a good thing. We've got, as I mentioned, we've got some great sporting infrastructure coming in. The new Sunshine Coast Stadium, which again we've been waiting for quite some time. It was supposed to start this year. Current stadium seats 1,000. This one's going to be 10,000. It's going to be state-of-the-art stadium. So good news for the Sunshine Coast Falcons, our local footy team up here. They get to hang around for another year, but they'll be displaced while they build it. But after that, they'll have a fantastic venue, and we're excited to get that in place. We've already got the international rowing course here, which is located at Kawana. I spoke about the Athletes Village, which is exciting as well. Hopefully I'm still in this office because I'll be able to watch it all unfolding from
your window
and the balcony. And as I mentioned before, property prices are projected to consistently grow by 8% leading to the Olympics. There'll be no slowdown. Danny came into the office a few weeks ago, and we were having a chat, and we just we threw out the line that it'll never be cheaper to buy on the Sunshine Coast than it is right now. And for the coasties, they're like, "Oh, you're crazy! It's so expensive." And then the reality is,
all relative when you live there. Yeah,
but it's a true statement.
Go and tell Adelaide that from a couple of years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a true statement, And with that, Australians are interesting. They're very resilient, and whilst through the last couple of years, interest rates going up and the cost of living going up, and we were the word crisis has been used 1,000 times. The moment there's just the tiniest ray of sunshine with the smallest cut of interest rates, or even the talk of interest rates coming down, that pent-up demand, Australians are just flooding back into the market. We haven't been busier than we are right now for quite some time.
You feel that FOMO building again.
You can, mate. And I don't create urgency as a sales tool. If something's urgent, I'll just tell you it's urgent. And we are seeing deals snapped up from underneath us within hours if we're not proactive enough, and if our clients aren't ready to go. So not only will it not be cheaper, you've got to be fast. Otherwise, you'll miss out, or you'll be in the next release, which will be another 30, 40 grand on top of what you would have paid if you got in right now.
Yeah. Well, I'd echo that statement. I don't think it will be cheaper at any time in the future to be buying in the Sunshine Coast than it is right now. As I said, it's already been higher than it is today. We've had a correction, and I'm certain it'll be well surpass that in 12 months' time.
I agree, mate, 100%. So I guess it comes down to how can we help? I've been on the coast for over 20 years. Cinti, for those, and I'm more than happy to Cinti and Danny founded the companies. Cinti is Danny's better half. She's born and bred here on the coast. So we've got exceptional local expertise. We're out here every day, but we've just generated some wonderful relationships And as a company, you know, we like to think of ourselves as relational first, transactional a distant second. We share the corridors. I mean, on my floor is Heron Todd White.
Mm.
So we have proximity and friendships and relationships in all the places you need to have your finger on the pulse. We're well connected through lenders, through accountants, everybody that you need to be able to tap into from an information perspective. We're good mates with Tim and Terry, which is nice as well, and Hotspotting. And so we leverage off those relationships. So when we're dealing with when our clients are working through us, they're getting a lot more than, you know, a business that just pulls stuff off a stock list and hopes for the best. We only work with high quality, cash strong builders. It's an absolute must. If you're going to be on our panel, won't happen overnight. We're a little bit painful. We like to go out and walk through our building sites and manage projects. We're not, you know, we know who we are. You know, we're not going to tell builders how to do their job, but we're here to mitigate risk for our clients. We advocate for our clients. And fortunately, we've developed the type of relationships with our builders where we're not treading on toes by doing that. And holistically, that just delivers great outcomes and a great experience for our clients. We only do the land side of things. So if you need any other expert business to buy your property, so whether it be a Queensland-based conveyancer or a solicitor, if you need a broker, if you need a lender, if you need anyone in that picture, we've got great relationships that we can connect you to. It's not about money for us. It's about you receiving the experience that we expect for our clients. Mm-hmm. And having that seamless experience from a purchase perspective. Now, for everybody on the call or for everybody who listens to the replay, we'd love to offer you we worked with Tim and Terry on a nice resource there, the location report for the Sunny Coast. It'll cover off on a lot of the information that we've spoken about today and more. So we'd love for you to grab one of those for yourself. To do so, all you need to do is scan the QR. Tim's actually going to put the link in the chat as well. But yeah, you know, reach out if anything that I've mentioned today is of interest to you. Reach out to me, reach out to the team, scan the QR code, get in touch. We'll arrange some time to have a chat, and would love to see how we can help.
Very good, Tony. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, I would echo again what you've just said in terms of getting the local knowledge. I'd suggest people do reach out and book a time to have a chat with Tony and the team. Award-winning business for a reason, and yeah, decades of local knowledge. So I think you'd be wise to take him up on that opportunity. Now we're going to head across to some questions. I've got the first question was put in there in the first 2 minutes of the webinar, so hopefully they're still there. I don't have a name for it, but they're keen to understand the outlook for Nambour. Where do we sit in 5 to 10 years' time? It's enjoyed great attention and growth recently. Is that likely to continue? And do you see further gentrification coming into the area, Tony?
Absolutely. And for those who aren't familiar with Nambour, it's central Sunshine Coast, a little bit further west from Maroochydore. So I see huge upside and opportunity in Nambour. There's been some nice pocket developments there. We'd like to see a little bit more development there from a land perspective. A lot of the stuff in there has been large lot, that large lot, that 600 plus, which is great. But I think there's a real opportunity to start doing some stuff in the more CBD based, some of that more medium density living. And look, apologies if there are any Nambourians on the call on the webinar, but their town centre absolutely needs and deserves a facelift. So I've got no doubt in my mind that some of that infrastructure spend is going to make its way there. They are probably our strongest hub from a railway station as it stands right now. So there's a lot of reasons why Nambour is fantastic. Price point's still incredibly low. And its central location, I see big things for Nambour. Absolutely. We just can't get our hands on enough land.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I've got a question from Robert. I understand that Stockland have had some land banked in the Parisian Breeze area, approved, ready for development. Is this correct?
Yeah, I saw the same thing just recently, but we haven't seen anything physically released. Watch this space because we also had the same thing with BUR East. There was big talk about that coming on this year, the land there coming on this year and starting to scrape some dirt, but that's been pushed back. In the same breath, they're saying, but they're doing more development on the Aura side, so the other side of the highway. But yeah, I've heard the same thing. And again, these are pockets that are highly desirable, and we need more in these areas.
Yeah, very good. Got a question from Dominic. Can you confirm you only do builds, do new builds, and what payment plan, payment structure? Just mindful of settlement timing for us balancing a growing family. Ideally, we'd aim to get a loan and settle in a short time frame. So I suppose that's maybe around the title conversation, Tony. And then I'm assuming in terms of the payment plan, whether they're a construction loan or a 1090.
It'll be a construction loan, but obviously, if you're working with a good broker, they're going to find you the best rate. And I do recommend that you go through a broker. Look, by the time you here on the coast, especially if you're looking at a quick buy, and you do go established, you're probably going to be paying a little bit overs. Whereas if you're going in that retail wholesale space, you're going to be paying a little bit less. You only pay stamp duty on the land. So by the time you weigh the two up, your holding costs, and that's something we can sit down and have a look at with you. The way it works, there was part of the question that I don't want to miss. What was the first part of that?
Payments, confirm you only do new builds, yes. And then the payment plan, payment structure.
Yep.
And then ideally we want a loan to settle in a short time frame.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm not sure if you're asking about the way we get paid, but I'll just quickly tell you that's through the builder. You never pay us a cent. We get paid as part of the builder's margin. We're on a profit share arrangement with them. Most of the builders that we work with are investment builders, and we form their marketing budget in effect. From a payment, your outgoings and holding cost perspective, once you settle on the land, you'll then be, let's say it's 400K. You'll have obviously borrowed into that 400K. You'll start paying your mortgage repayments on that 1 month post settlement on the land, and then you have your 6 drawdown payments through the construction process. So, and each time it's a month in arrears where you sort of see that coming out of your mortgage repayments. That's a conversation you also have when you're going through your lending process. So you understand what your holding costs are and your affordability through that. The upsides, though, you're organically, especially here and through our selections, you're going to have great uplift at the end of that project. So I know that's a capital, that's in your capital, so it's not cash flow, but the differences is, and our build times, we're talking once a block is settled on, we're sort of 4 to 6 weeks through your building approvals, and then 18 to 22 weeks to build. So you're not holding the property for an incredibly long time. Some of depending on where you're located, you might be hearing 12 months processes and that sort of thing. So, but look, I'm more than happy to just have a chat to you about that. It doesn't cost you a thing to have a chat, and I'm always happy to give people some time and help them understand. And I won't try to win the fight, established versus construction. I'm just going to share with you the advantages, and I'll tell you what I think of both, positive and
Good stuff. All right, I've got JJ with his hands up. JJ, I'm going to come to you where you can talk. If you can ask your question. JJ, are you there? I think he's muted. JJ, we might have to come back to you. All right, so we've got one from Stefan. Stefan says, the Sunshine Coast Rail, can you describe further the impact? Will this make the Brisbane CBD and Moreton Bay regions commutable for employment from Caloundra and Aura?
100%.
Yep.
100%. Not only that is you're going to have, so currently, if you're using rail to commute from the Sunshine Coast, you are going from your Nambours, your Landsborough, your BURs. So you're sort of having to head out there. You got to find parking, all that sort of thing, or you're using public transport. So if you're on a 9 to 5 or in Brizzy or in Moreton Bay, you're getting up at the crack. I commuted to South Bank for quite a few years in Brizzy, and whilst I would have loved to use the rail, it just wasn't conducive.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a massive impact, but it's all the arterials and the additional transport upgrades that are going to be happening on the Sunshine Coast that connect all the major hubs. It's going to make it a lot easier, including things like accessibility, but also the right parking infrastructure to support people heading to heading to their public transport hub and getting on from there. I haven't actually looked into how they're making it faster between the coast and Brisbane, but when I'm reading that overlay, it does talk about it being quicker. So it could be less stops, more services.
Very good. A couple more questions while we've got time. So JJ has put his question into the chat. Do you know how long it'll take, how long it will be until Central Ave in Aura is connected to the M1?
That is a really
$1 million question.
That's a real, oh, look, it's been a pain point. The developer, so this is where they are a developer. The developer and the council, couldn't agree on who was going to pay for what at what time. So it's taken a little bit of time to get those. So we've got Roy's Road, which opens up headed south, which has been a massive benefit. I think, mate, I think the road out to that'll empty out near Corbould Park on Old Caloundra Road will be before Central Ave. But if you got a good four-wheel drive and you jack it up a little bit more, I reckon you can just go straight over once they drop the gates for the blue drive along the back there. But I don't. No one's given us a firm time frame. But it sort of feels as though we get to critical mass, and then they do open up another arterial. So I'll keep you guys posted. I'll let
watch this space. All right, coming across to Eng, who's got a call. Sorry, got a question. So Eng, I'm going to allow you to speak now. Are you there, Eng?
Yes, thank you.
What's
My
your question?
my question is, I'm a bit reluctant to go and buy a new build, although I've accumulated a few properties and having the depreciation would be great. I guess my fear is it's just going into a market where it might be saturated with other new builds, and you're competing against a lot of other supplies. Could you sort of touch base on that and from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely, Eng. Well done on your portfolio. It sounds like you've done pretty well already, mate. That just comes down to the right selections. So if you go into what we would term Investorville and you're competing with too many other properties for the rental market, it's not going to work. And if you're working with a group that are just pulling properties off stock lists, a client will come to them and say, I've got 650K. They'll find the nearest thing at 650K, present it, sell it, and then say goodbye. You're going to end up losing at some point. You might jag a few, but you'll end up losing. We're very, we move out of areas once we feel that they've reached critical mass from an investment perspective. We're 99% repeat referrals, so we can't afford to have clients not succeed in their investments with us. And a lot of that repeat is clients coming back doing 2, 3, 4 properties with us. So it really comes down to selection, mate. You pretty much can't miss here on the Sunshine Coast. So you got to look at all your micro data and then your macro data. Understand what's happening right now. Understand what's happening in the future and what's coming, and it'll guide you to the right selection. But the same way you probably don't self-diagnose unless you're a doctor. Get the help of an expert. I mean, the guys at Hotspotting are fantastic. I would love to have a chat with you and can talk you through what works and why it works. And then the final part of that is that selection process. So if there's 100 blocks released in an estate, you want someone to go out there and you want someone to have a look at exactly what they look like and then pick the best ones. And that's exactly what we do.
Thanks, Tony.
Eng, thank you very much for your question. Dominic's got another question. Thoughts on Buderim?
Oh, it's where I live, mate.
There you go.
Technically, don't tell the Buderim people I said that. I live in Forest Glen, which is on the downslope of Buderim, but I managed to get my hands on a nice big block down there, so I love it. Love it. It's my favourite place on the coast. It's 10 minutes from the beach without, I'm not a surfer, so I don't need amazing access to the beach all the time. But it is, we are a tourism hotspot. So we're far enough removed. We're a little bit elevated. We catch the breezes. I absolutely love it. If you can get a block of dirt in there, or if you can get a property in there, you'll never look back. I've had two homes in Buderim. So I'll always be there.
There you go. The mayor.
Pretty much. Yeah. I've only been on the coast for a little over 20 years, mate. I'd have to be here for 50 years before I could be the mayor of Buderim.
Almost local. We've got somebody, we've got Steve, who's just said, hoping Terry enjoys his trip to New Zealand. Thank you, Steve. He's over there. And I can see he's already posting lots of photos on Facebook. So he seems to be enjoying himself already. There's one more question there, anonymous attendee, but the question is, what are the advantages of buying new property over established ones? Now, obviously, Tony, you're a new build specialist, but I thought, funnily enough, just before this call, I had a strategy session with a client who was asking me the exact same question. So if you're happy for me to do so, Tony, I wouldn't mind sharing my insights on that. And as I already articulated earlier in the presentation, I don't, when I'm working with an investor or for myself, I don't decide, do I want to go and buy a new build home or do I want to buy something established straight up? I look at the area first, and as I believe the location is going to do 80% of the heavy lifting. And then I start to look at what prices I can buy a block of land and build a new home for versus buying something established. And a lot of the time you'll see there's a discrepancy between the two. And the markets where I can build a new home for cheaper than I can buy something established, I tend to go new because the benefits are I save on stamp duty, I have structural warranties, I get a more modern property, which gives me higher tenant appeal. It's a more modern property when the next person buys it off me. The cons to that, or I suppose the negative part, is that you do pay for construction for some time before you get your rental income through. But I can either give, depending on which state you're buying in, I can either give $20,000-$30,000 to the state revenue office, or I can give $20,000-$30,000 to the bank on interest. They're much of the same, but at the end of the new build, I've got a brand new property. And that peace of mind of structural warranties, depreciation, and all those other benefits suit me. So I've built a number of new homes myself, and they've served me really well. And in other markets, I've bought established properties for myself and for clients because that's where it makes sense. So hopefully that gives you, an unbiased perspective of where they're at. But obviously, there's a reason that Tony and the team, they're specialised in new build, and especially in this market where they believe that they can get you better value for money than you can in the established market. So, Tony, to finish things up, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us. It was a really good presentation. I loved the conversation we had, and we should do it again sometime soon.
Tim, again, I appreciate it, mate. And for everybody that's tuned in and for those who are watching the replay now, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Good on you.
Good on you. Thank you very much, everybody. Make sure you reach out. The link is in the chat there. I'll leave it open for another moment there. Grab a copy of the free hotspotting report and make sure you reach out to Tony and the team if you're interested in the Sunshine Coast. Have a good day, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Hey, guys.